And we're live. Welcome to Awakening Warriors, where we talk about life, love, lessons, and learning.
What's up, everyone?
So, Josh showed me a new app, Anchor. You know about that? Or did I tell you about that?
No.
And so basically you can record it on here and then send it out to all the streaming things. So it's like a centralized thing. So I was like, oh, fuck yeah. Because otherwise I have to individually upload it to each thing, which I don't do anyways at this point. But I was like, dude, if I can hit all the platforms and, based off of this and just like, boop.
I like watching the waves.
Gotcha. Yeah. Entertaining. So, another busy fucking week, dude. For me at least. God. Working on the casino a lot, and we had 3 events. So
back to back to back.
Back to back to back. So it was, and normally I don't stay up till 10 o'clock at night. I think the earliest I got to bed was like 9:30. It wasn't too bad, but then the latest was like midnight.
Yeah, I stayed up later on Friday.
Yeah.
I got to go to that event.
Yeah, so super cool, super fun. They were all just like small, more intimate gatherings. So, and the owner was there the whole time on all of them. So it was pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. So, and then working on the casino. Finally got the building permit because I was running without a building permit the whole time, and electrical's pretty much done, and the plumbing's pretty much done. Just got to get the plumbing inspection, and we've been throwing up drywall for all week basically, it wasn't bad. It was fun. It was
pretty good.
Yeah, it was fuck.
Sorry.
It was fun. So, yeah, whatever.
We had more drywall work done in this room, and so we repainted yesterday, and so as I'm looking up, it caught my eye that we need some paint in that area also.
Yeah, and we're getting close to being done in here. I'm hanging the bookshelves today, so it's kind of nice to have this stuff wrapping up in this room. And we'll paint in that room, hopefully to start painting today. Potentially, probably finish. It's not like we have trim and shit, so. I bought the butter trim, so it's already pre-painted. So then I just filled the holes, and then called it a day. Whereas that trim, we had to paint,
Did we?
You did.
Did we? I actually only still done one coat on that, on the window.
So.
Anyway.
Well, yeah. Nothing new and exciting. Same old stuff right now. So.
Sounds so lame.
Yeah, well, we've been very productive, but nothing new and exciting within the past week. So. But cool. Thanks for joining us. I wanted to, because it's been on my mind a lot lately. Pornography.
Well, in this topic specifically, I think we've talked about in between weeks, or throughout the week, we've thrown that out there. But then when the weekend comes and we record, then we're like, oh, let's do this. So This is one that's kind of been
wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a really important topic to talk about because it can affect your life drastically, and I feel like the majority of men are using pornography to some degree.
And it's one of those things that is kind of taboo, right? That the majority of, like you said, majority of men, but I know women use it too, or watch it, or whatever. And it's kind of one of those, you know about it, you know that it's super common and really prevalent and, a thing in people's lives, but people don't really talk about it because it's taboo. You don't talk about those things.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people don't like talking about their addictions in general because they're ashamed. I always find it really interesting how like, it's offensive to ask someone like why are they not drinking. Like I don't give a fuck. I'm just asking you. Like I'm just like, oh, why aren't you drinking? Like I don't really care.
Well, for you, I think, because if you were somebody who was on the opposite end of that, who had an issue, like you'd be like, I don't care. This is why I'm not drinking. Like I'm telling you, this is my situation. Where some people are.
It's because people haven't come to terms with their addiction. Essentially. No, it is.
Potentially.
I'm telling you, it is.
Potentially.
So.
It's also nobody else's business why you are or are not doing anything. But you can also just say that. Like if somebody asks, you just say like, it's none of your business actually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I feel like at that point, like, if you go to that route, you're like, just like showing your problem with it essentially. You know what I mean? Or your own problem with it, not the relationship.
That's all, like, because I get that, and we've talked about this before with your point of view on like an alcoholic not being able to like pass a liquor store or something. But if that's also like where you are right now and that's what you need to do in order to keep yourself like on the straight and narrow, like do what you gotta do. Is that sustainable for your whole life? Probably not.
Yeah, and that's where it comes in. My problem isn't that they do that. My problem is that they do that for the rest of their life. It's not practical because eventually like you have to be able to overcome it and come to terms with it, whereas avoidance isn't really like it's an answer, sure, kind of.
Well, it's like a short-term solution.
Yeah, exactly.
It serves a purpose. It can be helpful, but if you continue to do that your whole life, then that's a problem.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue with like a lot of people's addiction. Like I think the best overcoming of an addiction, and everybody's journey is different, but you should be able to like look in the eyes of your addiction, and basically like not be triggered by it essentially. You know what I mean?
I think that's end goal, yes.
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, for sure. Yep. And I don't, maybe it takes a lifetime, but.
And so that brings us back to the topic that we want to talk about today with pornography, because I think you have labeled it as an addiction, right?
Yeah, I was addicted.
Yeah,
I was addicted to pornography. I don't think I'm addicted at this point, by any means, because there are some times where you get that like craving, just like any addiction. And I don't know if we should like lead this into addictions or if we should specifically leave it in pornography, but they go this goes hand in hand. We're talking about pornography specifically, but pornography is an addiction.
Can be, yes.
Yeah, yes. I don't even know where to fucking start.
Start with your journey of it. I can just speak to like my experience with it, but it's not quite like yours. So.
Well, yeah, but even your relational, like.
Well, yeah, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But I think it starts like, how did you get to that point?
So I think I got addicted to pornography at a super young age. I can remember sitting in the in the basement. My parents had like the internet and stuff, and I don't know if it was dial up or whatever. But and then like I'm hearing people walk down the stairs, and then I like real quick like trying to X out of it, but the computer's so fucking slow, and I've got like a billion tabs because I'm just going click, 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 and then it just like brings up more and more and more and more. And like I'm not even like necessarily sitting on one page for more than probably a few minutes, and then I'm just like next page and then next page and then next page, and like I can remember doing that as a kid, and I was really young. I want to say I was probably in like 5th or 6th grade. Maybe even younger. I don't even know. But
what's crazy is like we feel like that's young, and it is, but also I think like the kids now are seeing it even younger than that, probably on average.
Because it's so easily accessible. Because back then, like I had to have a computer and everything. Like, it was relatively accessible. But now you can get, like back then it wasn't like, at least I didn't know about like videos and stuff like that. And it probably wasn't as easily accessible as far as like quality or, fucking.
Well, yeah, like every kid nowadays has their own smartphone.
Yeah.
And parents don't use parental controls. And...
Yep. So I got addicted really, really young. Like really young. So you gotta assume like 4th or 5th or 6th grade. all the way through, I don't know, right before we got married was probably when I started to trying to cut it off. Otherwise, I was totally content with, the addiction. Like, I didn't really see the problem. And I will say that there are benefits to pornography. Like, for instance, like, because I was using pornography in high school so much, I didn't feel like I needed to go sleep around with, chicks. Because if I got really, if I even got really close to that, I would just go, beat off. And I, at that point, like, I was like, oh, okay, like, post-nut clarity, essentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I'm not saying that, it's a great idea and whatever else. I'm just saying that there are, positives to it, essentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say it's 100% all bad, because I also know that, like, and we'll probably talk more about this, but, like, if you feel like pornography can have a healthy place in your relationship, like, that can be helpful. Like, there are some couples that watch stuff together or don't mind that the other couple watches whatever. And
it's also, it's your relationship to everything, right? That, and that becomes an addiction. Once you get to the point where, like, you're obsessed with it, that's where it becomes unhealthy.
And then there's also, like, with addiction there comes, like, and that's what you were experiencing, was, like, the secrecy, the deceit, the, like, hiding stuff, the withholding, the, like, all of that came into it.
Yeah.
Even, like, because I feel like you experienced guilt sometimes, right? Or no, never?
I would say rarely, because I didn't have a problem with it, really. Like, I didn't see it as a problem, really. I was addicted and I was obsessed, but I never, I was never really, ashamed by it. I know they say you're always ashamed after the end of the thing, but I just don't think I was.
Well, I think especially just you as a person, like, you enjoyed that. Like, you were watching it clearly, like, getting off to it clearly, like, all of that felt fine, and you didn't necessarily see it as, like, something coming in between you and I until much later.
For sure. Yep. And that's where I was like, all right, it's becoming a wedge, essentially, and then that's where I needed to change it. So, I mean, all the way through high school, I mean, me and my buddies would, like, talk about jacking off and porn and stuff like that, and, like, how many times we could jack off for the day, or, like, in one day, or consecutively and shit like that. Everything was always a competition, So, yeah, I mean, it was just how high school dudes were, and just is what it was, or was what it was. And so I was completely content with it. I would, before I had my access to internet, I would, like, steal my mom's phone and shit. And then my dad would be like, what the fuck are all these internet charges and stuff? And I'm like, Mom just doesn't know how to use the phone,
Which is true. Which is accurate to this day.
But,
but not for...
Yeah. But, like, like that... Because of my addiction, it was essentially, like, led to a lot of other unhealthy habits, like lying and, like, shit like that. So, yeah, high school, never had a problem with it at all. I saw it as a strength to use it, like I said, because, like, when you're around that age and you're around that type of stuff, or as far as, like, school and everything else, like, I felt like almost above, because then I didn't need to put myself at risk. You know what I mean? Like, this is 100%, even though it's unhealthy, it's 100% safe compared to this. So, like, I didn't sleep with anybody until my senior year, and, I felt extremely proud of that. And it was mainly...
I have porn to thank in your thank you speech.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I used it as a tool. So even though it was unhealthy and everything else, I used it as a relatively decent tool. So, like, because, like, theoretically, like, if I got a kid and I don't want him, if I've got a choice, right? I got a choice for him going around and sleeping around and, whatever else, and putting a lot of fucking challenges at risk, as far as his future, or porn. I'd way rather him deal with porn than the fact, because there's even a lot more, there's just, humans are complex, so then there's a lot more bullshit that goes in there. People talk, There's the potential of STD, pregnancy.
There's a lot of bullshit with porn too. We'll get to that.
Yeah, but there's
not quite the same life-altering risks. I hear you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying if there's a choice, yes, but I also and I think it's also naive to think that you're gonna have a kid who never sees any of that. Like that's just not the case. Like,
yeah,
especially now.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, that's where I went through high school and everything else, and even after high school. So how old were we when we got married? Like 25.
You were.
So probably what? I don't know, fucking 15 years of my life, maybe.
Maybe a little less, but.
Yeah, that's a long fucking time to have 12, an addiction.
13, something like that.
Yeah, and not even acknowledging as an addiction until approximately then, 24, 25. So, that's a very, very long time, especially at such a young age, because not only is it a length of time, it was being programmed into me at a very young age, so that's essentially all I knew. So, yeah, it was just, it was something I was okay with, and it was what it was. And then eventually, we were getting married, and then that's when I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to clean this shit up, because I was recognizing the intimacy, the thing that it was putting a wedge in between our relationship, and that's a whole fucking thing too, because how addicted I was pretty drastic. Because even when I went through Day-Cloris, the first time I didn't have a problem with it. Like, I still didn't, I was okay with it, Like, this guy, I remember in one of these meetings or whatever, the council chat, we're just in a group talking, a bunch of men, and his wife, wouldn't even talk to him because he looked at porn while she was gone on some trip. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
I look at it every day.
Yeah, and I did. I fucking 5-6 times a day. I didn't care, So I was like, wow, that's fucking crazy. And I'm thinking wow, man, that's insane. So I didn't have a problem with it at all. And so I didn't have a problem with me having a problem with it, I should say. So then, eventually I was like, okay, well, this is driving a wedge in between our relationship, and I was recognizing it. But I had to come back from a very far point, because I was still looking at porn probably, at least 2 to 3 times a day at the minimum, So, and a lot of that was in secrecy. All of it was in secrecy. You had no clue how addicted I was.
No.
Yeah. So,
I don't even really remember how that all kind of I mean, I remember the progression, but all of a sudden you were I don't know, just had this conversation of so this is what I do a lot, and this is what it used to look like. When you were sitting right next to me, I'd be watching it. And
yeah, we'd be on the couch watching TV or whatever, and I would be, and I think it was a lot of it's for the rush,
Well, I was gonna say that too. So when you say you're looking at it however many times a day, it's not necessarily that you're sitting there and getting off that many times a day. It was that narrow pathway. Even just looking at it gave you that
dopamine hit. Essentially, it was a dopamine hit, big time dopamine hit. So I could fucking sit there and just get a dopamine hit from a new video or shit like that, or so. Yeah, I'd sit on the fucking couch, and she'd be on the other side of the couch, and I'd fucking look at it for, half the TV show, and she'd have no clue at all. And then I think there was once or twice that you caught me or something, and then, there was just a shit ton of things, you could just go into how deep I was, but, we'll just leave it there for now. But, so then I decided, I was like, okay, I need to change. So that's a whole thing, having an addiction for that length of period of time. So then, where do you fucking start? Because obviously, now I'm getting those dopamine hits, the flood of emotions and newness and everything else. And so, I think some things, it all depends. Some things you can cut cold turkey, and some things you can't. And some things you need to cut cold turkey, which, I think you could, the right person could cut pornography cold turkey. But I started at such a young age, it was a real big challenge for me. So, because I tried to cut it cold turkey in the beginning, and then it just wasn't working, and then, eventually, was it Tilma that told us about the accountability thing? Or I remember it being brought up, but I'm not sure if we were already doing it at that point. Remember, we were on our way to a URA thing.
Yeah.
Tilma rode with us.
Yeah.
I don't remember if we were already doing it at that point or if.
I don't either. But that's what like my mind went to, is like that was kind of like the first step in like, okay, this is how I'm trying to do it by myself and it's not quite working, so like what else can I do?
Yeah, yep. And like they were talking about like, oh yeah, you can talk to your buddy like anytime you get an urge or shit like that, and I'm just like, that's fucking stupid.
Well, and it kind of started that way, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it did with I talked to like Bosch and shit like that, and
yeah.
Stuff like that, because there's another gentleman that had a huge, even bigger than me, addiction, and I talked to him about how he recovered it and stuff like that.
Wasn't super helpful for you going that route.
No, it wasn't super helpful, and like going to a guy, I felt like it just wasn't working, and I didn't feel super accountable. You know what I mean? But then we changed to, instead of like me going to a dude, a friend or whatever about doing pornography, I flipped the script essentially. I was like, well, this thing has so much control over me. I'm a weak ass bitch if I can't just not look at porn. I'm like, that's fucking pathetic in my eyes. And I'm like, okay, cool. So now I basically reframed where I was at, because in the beginning I was like, okay, cool, whatever, it doesn't matter. I do whatever the fuck I want to do. It doesn't have any harm. And then I was like, okay, it's causing harm, and I need to do something about this. And then I tried to do something about it, and then it didn't work with having an accountability guy as a friend, or a friend as a accountability thing. And then after that, I was like, okay, I need to do something different. And then I thought about, okay, cool. Well, now I'm positioning myself as the weak individual. It makes me more of a man and stronger, because I'm always about strength and being no weaknesses and stuff like that. So if I have this on my plate as a weakness, that doesn't make me feel good. So I just flipped the script and reframed it. And so eventually we decided that it was going to be best that I come to you essentially and admit my my problem, each time, if I were to do it, right? So basically it's almost humiliating to a degree, because you want to change this thing, but it has such a hold on you, and you're addicted so hard that you just sometimes you're just oh, I gotta have it, so then you gotta go back to this person, because a dude, a friend or whatever else, I'm not letting them down, you know what I mean? Sure, they can say I am, but it's more embarrassing, essentially, if I gotta come to you and be like, yeah, I fucked up again. I am so weak that I cannot, not look at porn.
I'm just smiling because I don't think I've ever heard those words when you admitted it, but...
yeah, but that, egotistically, that's what it was doing,
And this, for me, so this has... As soon as I, became aware of how significant it was, I have my own insecurities. And even to this day, they're not near as big as they used to be, but even to this day, you could depending on the mood that I'm in, point something out about somebody else, and I'm like, bro, why are you saying that about that girl? It still stings sometimes, because I just have my own wounds about my worthiness and what it means if for this scenario specifically, what it meant about me if you were looking to other places to look at naked bodies or to see people having sex or whatever. What does that mean about me then? It made me, not it made me, but I allowed it to let me feel I wasn't enough, I wasn't worthy enough, I wasn't pretty enough, I wasn't sexy enough, I wasn't adventurous enough, I wasn't whatever. I have a worthiness wound, so I'm not enough comes up a lot. And so when this was in our space, it I don't know, it didn't fuck me up, but it was hard for me to know that that's how big of a hold this thing had on him. And then it stroked my wound big time, And then when we agreed to like wrap me into the accountability piece, like I agreed to that. It's not like he was like, I'm just gonna tell you, you don't get a choice. But that was not easy for me.
Yeah, because not only do I have to admit to it, now I'm basically kicking her in the balls every time I do it. You know what I mean?
Which is an allowance on my part. Like that's my own trigger, that's my own wound.
Yeah.
This scenario still stroked that. Like it did.
Yeah, because her reaction to or her attachment to those specific things had nothing to do with me.
Right.
You know, so me doing this has nothing to do with her. It's just her own attachment to what's going on essentially.
And like the stories that would just like spark in my head immediately about what that meant about me, which is just like it's stinking thinking. Like that's not.
Meanwhile, this has been going on for fucking years.
Right.
Years, like, I don't know, 4 years. I want to say 4 years probably just into our relationship.
Right.
You know, so, but I was just doing a really good job of hiding it and, you know, making it not, you know, whatever. Because I'd literally watch porn right before we had sex just to get me all warmed up and everything, essentially. So, like, that's, yeah.
And so then every time he came with his accountability piece of like, hey, this is what I did. Like, when we first started that, every time he told me, I was like in tears and upset. And
it's so funny to think about now.
Would like ignore you for a minute or like tell you I needed a minute or like whatever, because it would just instantly like make me sad. It would make me mad.
Yeah, and you know, now if I were to do it, you know, you'd just be like, okay, well, it is what it is. You probably it still sting a little bit, but I don't think it's like, it's not near like the pressure that it is, because so that actually I think helped both of us, that process, because it calloused you, which you should be calloused in my personal opinion.
I definitely grew through that.
Yeah. So not only did that help your overall worthiness wound overall in that general thing, it helped. I'm not saying it fixed.
I don't know that it helped the wound. I think it just, the irrational thinking, I think, got a chance to like chill out. Like the wound is still very much there and it can be very big, but
it helped your response to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like my irrational thinking like chills out but anyway.
So, like even though, and that put a lot of pressure on the relationship in general, because, you know, like that just, no woman wants to hear that, and no man wants to admit his weakness and that he's weak. So, like that tool or that procedure put us specifically into, you know, like almost a fucking challenge, an obstacle almost. Like we're both willingly throwing ourselves into a not chaotic, it's an uncomfortable situation essentially.
Out of comfort zone.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, exactly. So when we did that, it was a fucking brutal thing, and I think it happened quite often in the beginning, like probably like weekly, you know, if not a couple times a week, sometimes here and there, and then progressively, like, it just got easier. You handled it better because it's not like you just go back to normal fucking immediately. Like, yeah, like you'd be salty about it, and then everything else, and then, you know, it'd be like probably a day thing where, you know, you would not be, you know, we wouldn't be right.
I was like closed off and like distanced.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So, and then not to say that you use it against me, but then, like, obviously you don't want to have sex in general, like, because of that. So, like, that was also a thing, because sometimes you're like, man, you know, blah, 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 like, you know.
Right. Like, you dressed whatever yesterday, like, no, I don't want to. Like,
yeah. Yep, so that was a thing, obviously. Yeah.
Do you want to add into this the big show-ammy? Because I feel like, because all of this happened, most of this was happening after we were married, right?
No, it was all happening before. I mean, it continued into the beginning of our marriage.
Right, but now that I think about it, yeah, because once we got married, it was much different. Like, we still had that, like, tool, we were still using the accountability piece, but how often things were happening for you was much less.
It took me, and I'm not even saying I'm perfect at this point, but it's been a really long time, and they're probably, like, I'd say, like, probably fucking, at this point, they can be months in between. Like, it's not a big deal. And now I'm not as easily triggered. So, you know what I mean?
So we also have had this conversation too, that like, because he would have relapses or whatever you want to call it, like when he was stressed, or if there was like a lot going on, or so like his system was used to like turning to this thing that could give him an instant like relief.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like when things were heightened or you were stressed or whatever, like you would see kind of an uptick in some of that because that was like your coping mechanism essentially.
Yeah, yep, definitely. Yeah, I forgot about it being a coping mechanism, but yeah, you're 100% right. So that was my best. That was the only way I really knew how to deal with stress, because you know, basically you climax and you get this release of like just like flood of like
oxytocin.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, okay, cool, whatever, you know, like, and it's just different because, you know, with you and, you know, a video or something, it's still different. It's just, you know, like, you can go at your own pace, you know, you don't want to go, blah, 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 you know. It's just, like, fucking wham it out and you're good to go. So, I would use it as a stress reliever a lot. And I forgot even how we came to that thing, because, like, that would be a huge trigger. It's not only just the fact that, like, okay, I'm horny and I saw a beautiful woman. It's like, I've got a lot on my plate right now. I'm fucking freaking out here. Okay, you know, I need to, you know, like ding, ding, ding. I need to fucking do something, and then, you know, that would be the thing, and then I'd be chill for, you know, for a while for that day, you know. So, and that's my personal experience. I'm not saying that's every dude, obviously, but like I'm very high strung, and that was just a great release of and coping. Not great, but it was a coping mechanism for the time being. So yeah, I mean, we can fucking pound it out real quick and.
Well, because I think it ties into too why.
Yeah.
I had also continued big reactions to those things.
So
going back in time a little bit.
You already knew about the pornography side of things at that point before I even told you about this. Because I was already working on it to some degree, and that's why I decided I better tell you about that too. So
yeah, because I remember specifically like the night before, you told me something, or you were like, I have to tell you something. I don't remember, but you waited, and then like the next day told me, because I remember you were like, I was gonna tell you last night, but
yeah, something came up, or I don't know.
Anyway.
So let's see, where do you even start? I got kicked out of my parents' house. I was living with my grandmother, and you went to Canada, and I had an opportunity to go to Vegas, essentially. So I was essentially kind of recruited to go to Vegas. And like, you know, you talk to people online, and you know, blah blah blah, email, shit like that.
Well, someone just like hit you up on Facebook, right? And was like, hey,
like, pretty
you're
much.
You're like a good looking dude. You got big muscles. You work out. Like,
which I still get, and now I show her.
Yeah, pretty regularly.
Yeah, well, a couple times a year probably I get them. So, anyways, I had an opportunity to fly out to Vegas. And so, you know, they were basically like, send us some pictures, blah, blah, blah. I said, all right, cool. And I don't fucking know from down. The internet's a scam, yada, yada. I don't know if they're just going to steal my photos.
Like 2000...
Yeah, I don't even know. Fucking 2015, 2014, 2014, because 2013 or 14.
Because you weren't even 21 yet, right?
I was just turning 21, yeah. Yep. I was just turning. It was before while I was living in my grandma's, so it was either 2013 or 2014. So basically, they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna buy you a fucking ticket. You can come out and you can do a porn video, essentially." I said,
essentially,
okay.
That is exactly what it is.
So I said, "Okay, cool." And, you know, like, this whole thing, like, is fucking insane to me. Never been on a plane. Never fucking really been out of taking a trip by myself at all. And so I took off work. I called in work that day at the airport in a fucking elevator. And I'm like, I'm sick today. I can't fucking come in. And
again, I'm in Canada, so I am, like,
clueless
to all in any of this.
Yep. So, and then, so I show up, I go to the kiosk, I fucking enter the information, and they print my ticket, and I'm like, holy fuck! I'm like, this is the real deal. Because I'm driving to the fucking airport, and I don't even know if this is gonna be a real thing. I never talked to anybody on the phone at all. Like, I just email back and forth and shit, and I'm just like, holy fuck, this is insane. And basically, flew out to fucking Vegas, and yeah, they picked me up and fucking drove me to the fucking studio thingy, and that's where I met these other people, and they do it all the time, and blah blah blah. And then they brought us to a fucking really nice house just outside of Vegas. It's still in Vegas city limits, I'm sure, but this gated community and this fucking super nice house, and we hung out there for a couple of days, and you know, you did the deed and everything else. So. Yeah, and then I fucking got back on the plane, flew back, and you know, she was none the wiser essentially at that point, and I didn't decide to tell her until like 6 weeks before the wedding.
Yeah. So.
Which real quick, I want to touch on this. I understood the concept, like, but I never really classified it in my mind, right or wrong, good or bad, as cheating technically, because
Yeah, I remember when I said, like, I can't believe you cheated on me, and you're like, that's what you think that was? And I was like, yes.
Yeah, because it's not like I had some intimate relationship, or like I went to the bar and had a one night stand and all this other stuff. Essentially, like, I was a fucking young 21-year-old kid that was addicted to pornography in the first place, was presented like an opportunity of a lifetime, and I considered even asking her beforehand, but I'm like, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. What if she says no? I'm like, at that point, I'm like, then I can't do it, or I just gotta break up with her or whatever. And I'm like, well, I just won't tell her. I'll just go out and fucking do it. So it's not like I was like messaging fucking some chick, and then we went and slept together.
Like, emotional pieces out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But to me, it was a business thing. Like,
it still is to hit. Like, if we like talk about it now or whatever, like, he still very much sees it that way.
Yeah, and I understand where she's coming from, and I'm not gonna fucking tell her not to have those feelings and everything, but and this is gonna piss a lot of people off, I'm sure. But honestly, I think I would, even at who I am today, I'd still do it again.
Like you did it?
I don't know. I'd probably still take the opportunity again, one way or the other, I think.
And keep it all a secret for years and years and do this all behind my back and...
I wouldn't want to do that, no. But I would want to take that opportunity regardless.
I'm sure you would.
The opportunity that was presented,
Right.
Just to say... Because that
issue with
it's the life experience.
If you did it all the same way, that would be messed up. Like, if you didn't tell me and waited till I was out of town, and that would be so screwed up. Yeah,
and that I'd probably, I don't know, I'm not in the situation again, but I could be. So, but yeah, like, it just, I don't know. How many fucking people can say they did that? You know what I mean?
I don't really care. But, so, 6 weeks before our wedding, he tells me this. And I'm, like, mind blown. So I'm like, what do I even do with this information? Like, what is happening? I'm like, I feel like I'm in a movie. Like, anyway. And so here, like, again, we were doing this accountability situation with him watching porn prior to knowing about this. But then that happened. And I think for a little bit it did, no, probably for a while. I don't know, because even when I think about it, like, on our wedding day, like, I think we had definitely moved past that overall, but I don't know if I was 100% past that.
Oh, definitely you weren't.
Like, we were in a very, very good place when we got married. Like, I wasn't holding resentment, like, none of that, but I don't think I had fully moved past it.
Come to terms with it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like, now we can literally fucking joke about it. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
It's not a big deal at all. Yeah. Like, we literally...
Yeah, it's in the past, like,
And there was a period of time, too, which I can't remember when this fell in the timeline, but... Because I think right away when you told me, you had asked me, like, do you have any questions? And I feel like at first I was like, no. Like, don't want to know anything. But then there came a point where I got more curious, and I was like, who was it? So to like be clear on some of these things, because as a woman, this popped up in my mind and may pop up for people listening. But like there was testing, so everybody that had intercourse was clean.
Yeah.
He did not have sex with a guy, which is everybody do their own thing. But for me in my relationship, I was like, I need to know this.
Yeah, because essentially they were just they just bait you into doing the guy-girl scene, and then they want you to do guy. So I could have done guy like right off the bat, which I never have done, never will do, blah blah blah. But essentially they just kind of get you out there. They give you a taste of like the life. Because I mean, dude, there's fucking guys that would go out there for a week, make $10,000 for a fucking week hanging out in Vegas, and they take care of everything. They fucking do everything for you. And then, you go home and you got made fucking $10,000. He's like, because I talked to numerous dudes like, yeah, I make fucking $100,000 a year. And they're all guys my age, 20, 25 years old, and they're just making dumb fucking money, having a good time, kind of, and all this other shit. So I can't imagine the trauma that all those fucking people have, though.
But yeah, so this scenario was like a huge biggie. Like I was like so blindsided. I felt so blindsided. Looking back on it, again, I still feel like it's like movie situation. Like who has a freaking story like that? But I don't know. It's just interesting because it falls into line, like you said. Like you were young, you had this addiction that like we're like, hey, look it, like this is like this really pretty shiny carrot, and you're like, hell yes. Like, I will take it, please.
And I wasn't into personal development at that age either. I wasn't into becoming better and everything else. I was super narcissistic and, I fucking did whatever I wanted to do, still do, but in a different sense. But, yeah, it just kind of, it is what it is, and it was what it was. So, and I took life and marriage and everything else a lot more serious at that point. I was like, dude, she needs to know for the sake of, for her own benefit, and what she does with that, I don't fucking know. Fuck, maybe she's gonna call the wedding off. I have no fucking clue. But I'm like, before it's, I felt a responsibility for you to know who exactly you were marrying before you fucking married me. Because I could have hit it probably for the rest of my fucking life. There was a dude that worked at the gym, and he so supposedly I had an account on this like gay site thing. Remember? I told you about it. And they were using my picture and like, bro, is this you? And I was like, no, it's not fucking me. So they took the picture off the thing and everything else. And there's, I'm sure there's tons of fucking pictures. They took pictures and everything else. And I'm like, it is what it is. I'm not ashamed. I don't care. It is what it is. So I'm like, fuck it. Obviously I can have a conversation that's going to go on the fucking internet, and like I could hide this to the day I die probably, for the most part, unless I go into politics. Otherwise, then that shit's going to come up. But if I don't go into politics, none of this shit will come up. It is what it is. Now it's just part of my story. And like they say, your message. And that's why I say you got to come to terms with this shit. Like, when people fucking ask you about like, oh, why aren't you drinking? Well, that's not an offensive question, really. It's just a question. You took offense to that question. Like, you could say like, oh, you were a fucking porn addict, and you cheated on your spouse and whatever else, and like, doesn't fucking matter. That has nothing to do with them, and nothing. The only thing it has to do with is us. So.
And realistically, like, I mean, I don't know. It all worked out how it was supposed to, clearly, but that brought us closer together because it was like this huge like bomb drop moment that you didn't necessarily want to do but felt you needed to do, and then now I knew this big thing. And
yeah, there were definitely roles in that because like I had to say something. I had to ball up and say something, which it never had to be really fucking expressed. You didn't catch me. It'd been fucking however many years before I even decided to tell you, So there was no necessarily like have to anything. And I think it would have been a lot worse if you would have like found out, like whether before or after we were married, you would have found out like through a different resource or something like that. But there was also some like hesitancy, or I don't know, like always concern, like, oh, what if she finds out? What if she finds out? And shit like that. Because like obviously my photo's out there. Like, you know, like what if fucking whoever Joe Blow says, oh yeah, I fucking saw him once, and you know, I don't know, you know, fucking crazier shit has happened. So that was always in the back of my mind. You know, it's not like I really like obsessed about it, but it was always something like, it was like, oh, okay, that could happen. Oh fuck, you know. And the only time that I obsessed about it was like when homeboy like sent me a picture, like a screenshot of the fucking conversation and shit and whatever else, you know what I mean? That was the only time that I was like really freaking out. I was like, what the fuck? About the dude from the gym.
Oh.
Yeah. Like,
but I'd already known about that, right?
As of right now or as of before?
Like when he sent you that and was like, yo, is this you?
I don't think you knew right away. Because it happened...
I thought it wasn't that long ago that happened. It was like probably a couple of years.
I'm pretty sure you didn't know about it at that time. I'm pretty sure. And then I told you about it.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. But, yeah. So, like, you can see how deep I was into the fucking addiction. You know, it's not like it was just some fucking, like, oh, I look, you know, once or twice a week. Like, I was looking fucking 3 times a day, you know? Like, constantly, all the time thinking about it. And the funny thing is, my mind still is highly sexualized. You know, like, all the fucking time. And it gets really old, and, you know...
You're telling me.
I wish I knew how to fucking change it, but right now, I can't. But the nice thing is that I've made massive improvements. Massive. From going here to where I'm at now. Like, and it took years. It took many years. It's not like I just changed overnight. It took a lot of fucking work. It took a lot of accountability. It took your assistance and your, not approval, but like your willingness for that. Because there's other people that told me that she shouldn't be an accountability partner.
It was definitely good for us. It
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah,
Both
exactly.
directions.
Yeah, yep. And you know, I don't know. People, I feel like people, like, I think about my buddy that didn't want to tell, or somebody that told my buddy not to tell about, you know, his trauma. And I'm like, dude, that's your homegirl. Like, that's your fucking spouse, that's your best friend. Like, there's literally nothing that your spouse should not know about you.
Well, it makes me feel like, being the other side of that, it makes me feel like if you feel like you can't tell that person something, like you think they're so fragile that they cannot hear this. Like, that they can't hear your shadow, they can't hear your darkness because they are so fragile. Like, that also makes me think about that. Like, for people that didn't, like, said that I should be the accountability, like, I think it's almost like a protect, like, keep her away from that because it will upset her, it will blah, blah, blah. And it did, like, not to say that it didn't, but it also brought us so much closer because we did choose to do it, like, go into this thing together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, because everybody always wants to know about the, you know, the good side of you. You know, like, oh, yeah. But there's a lot of fucking bad side, and you need to know both in order to know who exactly you're dealing with, you know, and how to respond to them and how to help them. You know, like, it matters in my personal opinion. So, but yeah, the overall experience is fucking great. Like, it did bring us closer together. It made our relationship that much stronger, you know. So I was just telling Josh that I'd stack our relationship up against any fucking relationship out there. I'm sure there are better, don't get me wrong. But I'm more than willing to stack it up against pretty much any relationship, just because of, like, our relationship holds so much honesty and truth and communication to it. You know, like, I just fucking say stuff. Like, it doesn't fucking matter whether it's gonna hurt your feelings or not. Like, it just, you know, if it needs to be said, it needs to be said. Or if that's what I'm thinking, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I'm not gonna fucking sugarcoat it. And sure, I could change the delivery to some degree, but you know, like, that's also how I'm thinking it. You know what I mean? So it's not like, so if I were to even change the delivery, in my personal opinion, I'm changing what I'm thinking.
You're like altering it to
to cater to you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which isn't necessarily super authentic because if
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got you.
Exactly. So, yeah. And now to this point, you know, on the other side of things, and you know, there are crumbs left, right? There are crumbs to this thing. But fuck, it's nothing now. It's fucking nothing compared to what it used to be.
You've said, right, like you feel like you've overcome.
Yeah, I feel like I've overcome it pretty much. And I'm not saying that I don't, you know, have urges and, you know, those triggers and stuff like that ever. And I won't even say that I'll never look at porn again. I won't say that. Because I also think that, like, it's okay to slip up sometimes. I don't think that I need to be perfect all the time. Like, you know, because, like, we have fucking Doritos and stuff that has MSG in it here and there. Because sometimes it's okay I think it's okay to indulge, personally. You know, like, it's okay to fucking have a little bit. I think it's healthy, in my personal opinion, to indulge here and there. You know, because you are human, you're not going to be fucking perfect. So, from me coming from being a child that was literally addicted to it and watching it fucking, you know, when I was in high school, I'd watch it even more than 3 to 4 times a day. But, you know, being an adult, watching it 3 to 4 times a day, to, you know, flying out to Vegas and fucking, you know, having that. Because like I said, now I can have those same exact messages, and I can just be like, ha, look at this. You know, like, you know, it's kind of like an ego boost for me, right? You know, so, but, like, it's not like I hide it and be like, oh, fuck, I can't show her, she's gonna get mad, you know what I mean? Like, and that goes on to your side of things, because, like, I can show you, and because I'd show you regardless, even if you did get all pissy and upset and whatever else, I'd still show you, because I personally, because otherwise I'd be withholding, you know, and...
Well, this goes to a point earlier, which maybe I'm backtracking a little bit, but you talked about, like, taking the pressure off of it, like, it almost, because if every time you were to tell me something or show me something, it was this big old to-do, it, like, created this almost, like, want to keep it more hidden, because there's so much pressure on, like, I shouldn't do this, which then makes your brain want to do it, but then if telling somebody about it or being accountable sucks ass, you're not going to want to tell, so it just creates, like, all this pressure around a situation that, like, when you release that pressure, it gets so much flowier for everybody.
Yeah, and you could say the same thing about marriage in itself. Like, you put a lot of pressure on a marriage.
Right, I still do?
You did.
Oh.
Now you don't as much.
Yeah.
But, like, it was this big thing, and you held it on the pedestal and whatever else, you know. And I always would say, like, we're practically married. You know, like...
I didn't talk about that either, which, side note, but, when he had told me about the Vegas situation, I told him, I think, eventually, but, like, I think I held him up on this, like, super high standard of, like, who he was, and then when that happened, I felt like it totally just, like, shattered that, which was on me for having this, like, God-like, like, putting you up in that place in the first place. Because, like, you are human, you are going to screw up, and I think that, for me, was not a wake-up call, necessarily, because it's not like it made you a bad person because that happened, but it was like, whoa, like, you can screw up. Like, big time.
Yeah. Yep.
Or what I felt like was a big screw up.
And you were, and I'm not trying to call you out or whatever, but I just want to, you know, lead into this slightly. But you had a close encounter to something similar.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that too. Because you telling me then also opened up the opportunity for me to tell you something that I had in my own experience. Yeah. It was not... I didn't fly out to Vegas, I didn't make a porn, whatever, but it was still, like, not a great situation that I also experienced and didn't tell you about for years.
Yeah, yep. So, at that point, you know, like, everybody, I don't care who you are, there is always something for you to slip, you know, regardless.
Oh, for sure.
So, like,
opportunities everywhere.
I think when people think that they're flawless, and, because I used to think that way, even after this whole experience, I almost think you're untouchable. Everybody's fucking touchable. Every single person, whether it's from money or sex or porn or you know, I don't care. It's everybody has a flaw. Like I think things that pop into my head, but I'm just like, I wonder where that came from. You know, they just pop into my fucking head. It's not like I'm, planning on pursuing these things, and stuff like that. They just they pop in there, and I'm just like, oh, it's like a fleeting thought. You know what I mean? I recognize it, and I it's not like I get hung up on it. Like, oh, that's a great fucking idea. I'm gonna do that. But I think, and I don't think I'm the only one who has those. I think I have them a lot more than you do.
Yeah. I have random thoughts, but yours are more, I don't know, they're twisted in there.
Yeah.
You'll just say something so raunchy or whatever. I'm like, what? Where did that come from? I don't know. It just popped in my head.
Yeah.
I just think these things sometimes.
Yeah. Yep. They'd probably put me into a fucking insane asylum if they knew half the shit that I thought.
Your thing's turning red.
Oh shit, heads up, the maximum for this is 60 minutes. Fuckers! Well, good to know. We got 4 minutes basically to wrap this shit up. Because we're pretty much wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, now I can go to the fucking strip club and not be hung up on it.
And I can go right there with him.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yep. It's just the relationship, it's the openness, it's not a big deal about it. And about any of this stuff. So don't get hung up and put these things on a pedestal. If you're a chick, expect your guy to never ever look at porn or
And it all comes down to the communication, like I said, because for us that was not healthy or helpful. It was a wedge situation. It wasn't good for us, but some other people might not have the same whatevers that we do, and it's in their relationship and it's fine and it works and they communicated about it. And I do think that there are still negatives to it, but it also just fully depends on the individuals that are using it and communicating about it.
I think if you use it here and there as a tool, it's probably okay. But I wouldn't say that it's something that should be super active all the time.
Well, yeah, and then that's that fine line of in moderation versus an addiction that is problematic.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, we dropped a lot on you fuckers today because that's a lot of information to intake. You're like, wow, this guy's fucked up probably now. So, but we all are, so I don't care. It doesn't really matter to me.
Same, and I'm also in a place too where I don't.
Yeah. This just makes us stronger at the end of the day,
Well, and even if I were to have to be embarrassed about your story or whatever, we came together. We came a long through a lot in a long way, and it is what it is. Like you said, it's just part of your story.
Yeah. Yep.
I think early on in one of the podcasts we mentioned something big that happened, blah, 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 and it was really ominous. And so then my mom was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, here we go. And I just told her, and she was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, for sure. It is what it is. It all comes down to how much weight you want to personally put on it. If you just casually say it and, yeah, I flew to Vegas and fucked some bitch versus
It is pretty interesting though. Like I said, I still feel like it's your life's a movie.
Yeah, well, should be. Look at me. Alright, cool, let's wrap this up. We got 2 minutes. If you enjoyed the episode, feel free to share it with somebody that may be addicted to porn or, whatever. And I wanted to make it blah, 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 blah. If you know someone addicted to porn, please share that. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I think it could be helpful. And like we've said a billion times, this is just our perspective and our experience with it. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot more tools I could tell you about and shit, I'm sure. But, you're more than welcome to inquire about that. But go ahead and follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook. And feel free to add us as a friend on Facebook if you want as well. So, but I hope you guys got some value out of this. I know I enjoyed the conversation. So, I think that's it.
Hope you enjoyed our bomb drop.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know what you think of me now. Oh, fuck. Alright, cool. Well, we're out, guys. Have a great day.
See ya.